This elite podcasting here. Ain't nobody better. Look. Yeah. Listen to us every time we live in the side. When you turn it on, it's just defining the mind. If you feel it, our opinions is great. When everything we moving now with the state, turn us on. If the feeling is right, every opinion now comes from the heart. No time we move with a part. We in the radio, it's wrestling. Time's aggression. Here is the feeling in the proof. Get the lesson. And if you want to prove it to you now, here's the feeling in the time and everything that we did. Listen to the senators connecting it. Moving on everything that's pronouncing it. Everything we did in the time now with the testament. Here is the feeling when we live on the stage. And everything we do, turning the page. Nobody does it like us. The feeling when we move, we are excited. Elite podcasting. I know you like it. Yeah, the bullet cast. Fearless. Yeah, the bullet cast. Fearless. The bullet cast. Fearless. Elite podcasting. We are. The bullet cast now. Fearless. The bullet cast now.
Yo, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? The microphone Messiah, Phillip here. Kind of a different bullet cast this week. I know it's late. It's super late in the week, but we're still getting it done. Can't miss a week. So the way this is going to work, I'll talk about Raw and SmackDown, and then Brandon and Marlee will be sprinkled up throughout the episode, giving their thoughts on certain things. And I believe Brandon is going to give you guys a full gear preview. Yeah, so let's get into the stuff. Let's talk about SmackDown. So, the OG bloodline and the new bloodline, they're staring down each other. The Usos, Sami and Roman, the Tongans, Jacob Fatu, and of course, Solo Sikoa. They're taking care of business, the OG bloodline. So Bronson Reed joins the mix. And, yeah, man, he just looks good with them. It looks like it fits and makes sense. And, I mean, just him and Jake just wrecking havoc. Moonsaults and tsunamis galore. It's unbelievable. It looks amazing. And, Jimmy is telling Roman, you got to make that call, Luce. You got to make that call. So we get to the end of SmackDown, like a minute left. Roman's sitting down in his office. He's hurt. And he says, call the Wiseman. And it rings. And then, it says the caller, the person you're trying to call, the phone's been disconnected. You know the message. And this look on Roman's face. So immediately the internet's like, well, wait, remember Solo crushed Paul Heyman's Roman phone, so that's why he couldn't call him. But then, if you watch before the OG bloodline goes out when they're in the office earlier in the night, you can see Sami Zayn throw down his phone. And so people are like, oh, maybe Roman picked up Sami's phone by mistake and everything. And if Roman had his actual phone, then, couldn't Paul Heyman just transfer his contacts over to his new phone and all this other stuff? And then I was listening to Sam Roberts. He said something about, like how they can dummy contacts, like hackers can dummy calls. Like you think you're getting a call from let's say your bank or something like that, but it's actually, hackers calling you trying to get information. So that is a possibility with all that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know. Very, very interesting. When wondering about who Roman was going to call, people thought, well, is he going to call Seth? Seth, he said he would never in a million years team with Roman Reigns again. The next time he was going to be in the ring with Roman, he was going to stomp his head into the ground. So people thought that. I saw other speculation, other members of the family that they can call. I'm like, I guess, but very, very interesting with what's going on with that. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to see what happens next and who their fifth member will be. I mean, or could they do Bloodline? Could they do OG Bloodline with 4 and then beats the new Bloodline with 5? And I mean, you could have the OG Bloodline go over in that sense, but I think it would make the new Bloodline look even more dominant if they were to just mop the floor. Once the War Games officially start, they're going toe to toe, and then the OG's up for a second, and then boom, the difference maker that is Bronson Reed and of course the enforcer Jacob Fatu. They're really the deciding force in having the new Bloodline go over. So as of right now, that's where I'm at with that. We have to wait and see, but just really compelling storytelling that's still going on. You love to see it. Moving on, Cody Rhodes demands Kevin Owens. He wants a fight with Kevin Owens. He wants Kevin Owens to pay for what he did to Randy Orton. Nick Aldis said, well, you're going to have to wait for that. And Cody tells Nick, like, hey, man, underneath that suit, you're a wrestler. And, of course, we know the history that Cody and Nick have. All in 2018, Cody beats him for the NWA title. But, yeah, it looks like next week we're going to get Kevin Owens and Cody facing off. So that's going to be something very fun. I can't wait for it, man. I mean, Kevin Owens has done some great work these last few months, really. I mean, the stuff with Cody and challenging him for the championship, and not only that, just I mean, he's not really at fault for the things he's feeling. He feels betrayed by Cody because Cody went and teamed with the person that made his life hell and robbed him of his dream the first go around at WrestleMania 39, but teaming with the guy that's made Kevin Owens' life hell for the past 4 years, made their whole roster's life hell. So very interesting stuff. Can't wait to see what's up with that. And then Bayley advances in the women's U.S. title tournament, winning a triple threat. So good on her. Bayley, I mean, she's a great candidate. She's a great candidate to be the first ever women's U.S. champion. I mean, you heard last week Brandon and I's thoughts on having another title in the mix. No more titles, and then not just making it the women's version of a men's championship, being different. That's kind of my my whole thing. I understand with like the WWE titles and like the women's world championship. I understand with that stuff, but like if we're gonna do a mid card one, like you're going to Netflix, we couldn't get like a Netflix title, or always felt like with the WWE network was still a thing, having a network championship, or even having a Peacock title, something like that for the women to go after if they need a secondary championship, but no more titles. And then Shinsuke Nakamura, speaking of the U.S. title, the men's U.S. championship, LA Knight retains, and then Shinsuke Nakamura reappears and gives LA Knight a Kinshasa. So looks like that's the feud we're going to be heading in with LA Knight as U.S. champion. Interesting, Shinsuke. I don't think Shinsuke is really. What was the last thing he did? Like I don't remember. Was it the Cody stuff? I think that was the last thing Shinsuke did. But very very glad to see him back. Shinsuke such a great performer. I mean, just he had such an aura in NXT, and then the call up to the main roster kind of it's dwindled. It has. We can't lie. But man, that. I don't know. I felt like, when he went to Noah, was it last year, and wrestled there, and just you saw some of that aura come back, and I thought it would come back or translate back in WWE, but I don't know. We'll see what's going to go on with Shinsuke Nakamura, and actually another thing, with Rick Boogs getting hurt, do you think that kind of the fans, right in? Do you think Rick Boogs getting hurt? Early on in that tag match at was it 38 in Dallas, WrestleMania 38 in Dallas? I think they kind of hurt some of Shinsuke's momentum, because I don't remember them really doing much with him after that. I mean, obviously the Usos were going to retain, but still, I mean, thought maybe something else could have happened there when they were challenging for those SmackDown tag titles. Let us know. That's going to be the end of my thoughts on SmackDown. So I'll throw it over to Brandon and Marlee.
What's up, Bulletcast? It's your boy, Brandon Tanguma, here to bounce in and out with some thoughts I had on some wrestling throughout the week. First off, we got SmackDown, and I thought it was a pretty good episode of SmackDown. We had the Cody Rhodes, Nick Aldis exchange, I believe, to kick off the show, and I thought this was a good promo from Cody. If you guys remember, I've been a little quizzical on Cody and what he's been doing thus far, but with this Kevin Owens heel turn and the attack on Randy Orton, this gives something for Cody to kind of chew on and kind of to react to. And I would say this is probably the best thing Cody has done non-bloodline related in quite some time. I did like the interaction, Nick Aldis, Cody bringing up his history with Nick Aldis, and Nick Aldis as a wrestler in general, which hasn't completely been acknowledged that much in WWE, and it kind of gave a sense of purpose and a sense of passion for Cody, for why he would care so much about both Randy and Kevin why he cares about both of them and why he feels like he needs this match. And once again, the kind of protecting Kevin Owens, or, protecting the other wrestlers from Kevin Owens, I still feel that was a little bit too much. But I did like this quite a bit from Cody and Kevin. We did maybe think that possibly this feud would just get added into the War Games match, but no, it does look like this is going to be its own match. We had the start of the U.S. title, women's U.S. title tournament with some matches taking place. I believe Bayley, she defeated B-Fab and Candice LeRae. My girl Candice, unfortunately, she didn't get the win here, but, Bay Area, shout out Bayley, she gets the win. And B-Fab, getting some shine in the ring, which is something we haven't seen at all. I do not remember the last time she's had a match on main roster television, if at all. But, B-Fab, I was very tough on her, especially in her NXT days. Was not a really good wrestler. I'm not tapped into what she's doing, if any, on the house show circuit. Or I know she is training with Natalya, and she does look better. There's nowhere to go but up, I would say, for B-Fab. But it is interesting. There are some reports circulating that maybe she has some people asking or wanting her to get a little bit more of a push in ring wise, and I'm up for it. I'm not going to sit here and say she's going to light the world on fire, but I think she has a good character. She has some athletic background. Maybe it pans out, but if it doesn't, so what? I think the women's division in WWE main roster is lacking right now, kind of new stars. And once again, I'm not going to sit here and say B-Fab is going to be a difference maker, but, maybe she catches fire, she finds something, and she's just kind of another body to be in the mix. And with the women's U.S. title scene, hopefully this means we get more women, more opportunities, and more, time on television, and to flesh out some characters people actually care about. B-Fab could be someone on that kind of shorter list. We had the main event in-ring wise was Nia Jax and Naomi. Whatever. I don't have the full list in front of me. I have some notes and stuff, but I don't have kind of in order. But Naomi and Nia Jax have a match. Jax gets the win. Nothing too special here. Kind of building up the trio of Nia, Candice, and Tiffany. Maybe they're building up some sort of split between Candice and Tiffany, and Candice can be the lackey while Tiffany goes off and does her own thing. Bronson Reed makes a surprise appearance on SmackDown and kind of lines up with Sol Sikoa. That's going to move on into some of the talk we go over on Raw, but it is what it is. You do recognize that Triple H does like Bronson Reed, and he's been put in a scenario, and I think he has risen to the occasion. Once again, talked about it last week on the Bulletcast that it does feel very shoehorned of Bronson Reed and Seth Rollins kind of put in more so Bronson than Seth. But if they want to have a straight up 5-on-5 and they're not going to bring in anybody outside or any new members of the bloodline into this bloodline story, I guess Seth and Bronson are the next best option. I don't love it, but intrigued to see what they do with it. And then the major cliffhanger to end the night was Roman Reigns trying to make the call to Paul Heyman. Jay was telling him to make the call the entire night. We didn't know exactly what that meant, but to close the show, we get Roman trying to call Paul Heyman, and the number bounces back saying that the number is inactive. So what does this mean? Is Paul Heyman off the face of the earth? Is he mad at the tribal chief? Did he block him? What does this mean? But it is intriguing to see that Paul Heyman has finally kind of entered the chat since the beatdown and him getting laid out from Sol Sikoa and his goons, however many months ago that was now at this point. So I would assume we're going to get a Paul Heyman appearance, within the next couple months, maybe before Royal Rumble. I don't think he's going to show up at Survivor Series, but just liking that his name has been put back out there and he's going to be maybe more of a focal point on Friday. Maybe not a focal point, but at least a talking point. And maybe Roman can kind of go off on that and talk about his feelings, be a little more vulnerable. But yeah, that is it for my talks on SmackDown.
I also enjoyed SmackDown. I thought that SmackDown was more entertaining than anything. Cody's promo was very passionate. I enjoyed the opening, the women's triple threat. It was nice to see B-Fab get her moment because I was wondering if she was ever going to get some in-ring time. I had been wondering for a while now. But even though she came up short, it was nice to see her in-ring. It was also the return of Shinsuke Nakamura. It's been a minute since we have seen him. Nice to see him back. He came for LA Knight, so it's interesting to see how that title picture goes. There was also some Bloodline Brawl, the respective Survivor Series War Games matches attacked each other, and then we ended with Roman Reigns making a call, but that call went straight to not voicemail, not blocked. I don't know, when you get the 3 dials, that's kind of just like this number's disconnected. So there are some seeds planted there. Who knows if we'll ever see the reunion between Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns on television. Because they have reunited since Roman's return, but will we see it on television come Survivor Series? Who knows? But I enjoyed both Raw and SmackDown this week. NXT even, I managed to catch the highlights, but Survivor Series, excited to see where things go.
All right, guys, what's going on? Let's get into the Raw recap. So, excuse me. Bronson Reed picks up a big victory over Seth Rollins. Massive victory, probably the biggest victory of his career with the help of the current tribal chief Solo Sikoa. Big win for Bronson Reed heading into that War Games match. So now maybe it will be Seth Rollins that, teams with the bloodline to go up against them, But I don't know. I mean, I don't see it being Seth though. I know that's what the internet's been saying and stuff, but I don't see it happening. I think it's going to be somebody else. Maybe there's somebody that we haven't thought about. Maybe there's a fantasy pick out there that hasn't happened yet, or a fantasy pick that's been talked about, but people don't see it being as realistic. I mean, that's what fantasy means and all. But yeah, big win for Bronson Reed going up against Seth and defeating him. He needed that. He needed that going into this War Games. Speaking of War Games, a women's War Games match has been set. Rhea Ripley has returned. The look on Liv Morgan's face was priceless. Liv Morgan, do you think she was wearing the Mysterio beanie from like the 90s, or raised to wear what Dominic's been wearing? Liv Morgan's been doing really some of the best work of her career also. A lot of people have really stepped it up in 2024 to just put on great performances all around. A lot of the people that have stepped up are in this match. I mean, it's going to be Liv and Raquel and Nia and Tiffany going up against Io Sky, the Women's Tag Team Champions, Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill, and Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley's come back with the face mask. I said, I think it was last week or a week ago, or 2 weeks ago, I was like, what if she came back with the face mask like Taker had when he broke his orbital bone? Ask and you shall receive, I guess. So yeah, that's Women's War Games match has been set. I didn't feel like there was enough heat here for a Women's War Games match. Now, I mean, with Survivor Series, obviously, like with the teams of 5 strive to stay alive in the elimination tag match, or even when it was 4-on-4 back in the day, a lot of those were just kind of like multiple feuds just kind of thrown together. So I guess that tradition of Survivor Series is being kept, but I don't think it warranted a Women's War Games match. We could have done a traditional Survivor Series match, and I think that would have been just fine. You can still tell stories and add these elements and these tidbits with a traditional match like that. So-and-so messes up and accidentally, like Tiffany does something that accidentally gets Nia Jax eliminated, something like that. I think that would have been very interesting to move on with their dynamic on SmackDown, and maybe Raquel and Liv have a little bit of miscommunication, or the whole match could be just Rhea trying to get her hands on Liv Morgan. I could see something like that, but nonetheless, Women's War Games match. Io Sky's in it. She's going to be jumping off that cage. So you can't wait to see that. Gunther attacks Damian Priest backstage and, just talks down to him. It's interesting to see Gunther in like the scared role, the not really sure of himself. I mean, we all love the confident ring general, but it's layers to the character. It's different, so we'll have to see. I believe that just attacking Damian was him kind of getting his reassurance back of certain things, and just letting him know, like, I'm not scared of you. Despite what you may think, I'm better than you. I beat you once, and I'm going to do it again and keep reigning as the world heavyweight champion. And lastly, what I want to talk about, the cryptic message that Bo Dallas was sending to Karrion Kross, and the lighting and just the way he was looking. I mean, the internet's like, is Bo morphing into his brother? Is Bo Dallas morphing into Bray Wyatt? I don't know. I mean, WWE has done very supernatural things in the past, given, Taker and Kane and all that other stuff. I would say he's morphing into his brother, but really, really leaning into paying homage to his late brother. I think that's what it is. I mean, he could morph into him, so we don't know. We have to keep watching, let it play out. Just or let them cook, the sayings I hear from like Cheap Heat and not Sam Wrestling. Just watch. Let's see what happens. That's the bottom line. But good stuff. Good stuff. I'm intrigued to see what the Wyatt the Wyatt Six in the Final Testament. I said this. That could be a traditional Survivor Series match. That could be one right there. They've been doing some good work, and I believe they could get on the card. But you have the 2 women's War Games matches. You have a world title match. I assume Cody and KO are going to be on the show. And then if you throw, like, the traditional Survivor Series match doesn't have to be long. It could be 10 minutes, like, if you were to do something like that. Then the Triple H likes his 5-match cards. That could be your 5th match. Boom, get in, get out, go home. But we'll have to wait and see. Let's hear from Brandon and Marlee about their thoughts on Monday Night Raw.
All right, back here with some of my thoughts on Raw. And it was a tape show. You can kind of get the sense of that with, a little bit longer matches, getting some shine on some wrestlers that, weren't there 2 weeks ago, and trying to fill out some of that TV time. We get the opening segment with the Women's War Games match, and I don't know why we're getting this Women's War Games match. Like, equality, I get it. You want to have women have a War Games match because the men are getting it, but this just feels so forced. And if there was a cohesive story and a reason for this match to be built, I still would kind of say I wish we just had one War Games match, but at least it would make sense. Like, honestly, this doesn't make any sense. Like, okay, you're kind of putting 2 stories together with, the women from SmackDown and the women on Raw, kind of putting them all, forcing them all together, and like the slightest of thread that's connecting everybody is the tag team titles and Jade and Bianca, because they are the floating champions. They are allowed to go between Raw and SmackDown, so they have interacted with the heels on both sides, but it just feels so forced. And like, you can either take the year off, come back with the strong one next year, maybe just have a Women's War Games match next year and don't have a men's, or like have some foresight and have a plan in place to have a War Games match that makes sense and calls for it. Luckily we've gotten rid of the Hell in a Cells, the TLC pay-per-views, but Survivor Series and kind of Elimination Chamber-ish. I don't even know if we had an Elimination Chamber. I don't think we had a full-blown Elimination Chamber show, but you know what I mean. Like, Survivor Series has been now, it's the War Games match. It's the War Games show. And we're seeing, despite the other 11 pay-per-views out of the year, getting rid of the gimmick names, now we're kind of, locked in to the War Games being a Survivor Series, which was a very novel concept whenever they debuted at NXT 7-8 years ago. And now we've seen it a few years now on the main roster. It is kind of losing its luster. And on the War Game, on the men's side with the Bloodline, I think it warrants it. It makes sense. People are excited for it. And that's another reason why I kind of don't like Seth and Bronson kind of getting forced into it, because I think it's perfectly good storyline to have these 8 guys in this War Games match going at it and just having a fight and having a match, because you'll shave some time off with the 2 entrances you don't need. But overall, the women's match, the opening segment itself was not good, but then adding on top of it that now we're going to get a women's War Games match, and hopefully it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's going to hopefully be like 30 to 40 minutes at most. Yeah, so, and also, like, you look at the workers that are in there, Jade, Nia, Liv. I do wonder what's going to be, and, even like Tiffany. And she's gonna probably have her moment. She's probably gonna do something spectacular, and Io probably do something as well. But I could kind of see this War Games match on the women's side being a little bit of a disaster. But I digress. Let's move on. Not gonna go through everything. We did get Braun Breaker and Sheamus in that IC title match, and it was a good. I mean, it was a fun match. Braun Breaker continues to kind of go back and forth between heel and face, and I don't know, can we pick a lane? I get it. People will say tweener and stuff, but his character is kind of like wishy-washy and all over the place. And, they're building to something. It wasn't like the best match in the world. Definitely not, Braun Breaker's best IC title defense ever, but it was a solid match. And like I said, with this tape show, they're filling some time. So it was a lengthy match. And so people were getting invested, and then just an absolute crap finish with Ludwig Kaiser coming in for the disqualification, and it just felt so forced. And like, okay, they set it up of Kaiser and Gunther kind of talking and just trying to make a statement, and so he's making a statement by interfering in this match. But in this day and age where people know wrestling for what it is, you're not putting heat on Kaiser, you're putting heat on the promotion. And WWE is so hot right now that it's not like a big issue, but death by 1,000 paper cuts. And I just think this is an unnecessary way to get out of a match that, like, Braun Breaker could have just beat Sheamus. I don't understand what's the big deal. Like, Sheamus, he's a legacy star. I get it. He's been around for now 15 years. Like, he's not going to get pushed to the moon. He can just have Breaker beat him. Sheamus can be like, all right, Bonnie lad, you got me this time, but I'm going to come back and I'm going to get that title, you best believe. I'm not gonna lie, that's probably one of the better Irish accents I've ever done. But the main event was Bronson Reed and Seth Rollins. Really good match, fun, lengthy, and Reed gets his lick back. He gets the win over Seth Rollins, and a distraction finish. So once again, like, it couldn't be clean. Bronson just couldn't beat Seth, but at least this one was, not a no contest or a non-finish like the IC title match was. So, the 2 big matches on the show did have, a bad, one bad finish, one kind of, okay, distraction finish. And Bronson Reed gets the win, once again, solo. And Bronson, obviously in cahoots, or at least in an agreement of some sort. And I would assume maybe on SmackDown, but probably on Raw next week, we will get some sort of acknowledgement, and Rollins kind of reluctantly teams up with the Bloodline just to get at Bronson Reed, and he's going to just completely ignore Roman and not want to have anything to do with him. And like, it's okay. I keep hammering this point home. I do feel like it's really forced. It will lead to an interesting dynamic and an interesting story they can tell in the match of Seth and Roman. And do they almost team up, but Seth kind of backs away? Maybe Roman is also reluctant because of the things Seth has done to him in the past, and even at WrestleMania, you can point and say that maybe Seth is the reason Roman lost the title to begin with at WrestleMania 41 because of his involvement and his distraction. So, there is some work to be done. It's, some story to be told here with 2 weeks to go for a Survivor Series, or a week to go. I don't know. I should probably remember these things, but I don't. But yeah, overall, I thought SmackDown and Raw were both solid shows. Nothing too newsworthy, but just good, solid stuff. Building up Survivor Series.
I enjoyed Raw this week. I enjoyed the opening segment of the setup to the women's War Games match. The return of Rhea Ripley was set up perfectly. The setup to the men's War Games match, the Bloodline Civil War, was also good as well. The reveal of Bronson Reed being the fifth member, the tease of who's going to be the fifth member on the OG Bloodline side was cool. Decent matches I enjoyed. The Rey Mysterio tag team match and the segment where Ludwig literally speared Braun out of nowhere and then ran around the ring to knock Sheamus in the face. That was also a favorite part of mine, but I enjoyed Raw this week. It was good.
All right, thank you guys for that. Now I'm going to throw it over to Brandon and Marlee as they have thoughts about the upcoming AEW Full Gear pay-per-view.
Full Gear is this coming Saturday, and I can honestly admit I have not been keeping up with the build to Full Gear, but I'm still excited to watch it because I think that AEW, their strong point is their pay-per-views as opposed to their weekly shows, so I'm sure they're going to deliver a solid Full Gear, but as far as predictions go, I don't know anything about the Costco guys personally, but I'm excited to see how this plays out because I watched Big Boom AJ, his interview with Renee Paquette, and I'm kind of sold based off of one interview. MJF versus Roderick Strong. I'm going to go with Roderick Strong simply because I forgot that MJF was in any storylines as of this moment. Jay White and Hangman Adam Page. I'm going to go with Hangman Adam Page on that one because that just seems like the direction it's going to go in. Four-way tag team match for the tag team championships. I'm going for Private Party to retain because they just got the titles and it would kind of be a dick move to take the titles away from them like that quickly. Mercedes versus Chris. Personally, I do want Chris to win, but I do see Mercedes retaining. Swerve versus Bobby. Gonna go with Swerve on this one. Jack Perry versus Daniel Garcia. I say it's time. I say put the TNT title on DG. It's the only option. It's the only answer. Will Ospreay versus Kyle Fletcher. Gonna go with Kyle Fletcher on this one. Konosuke Takeshita versus Ricochet. I'm gonna go with Konosuke Takeshita on this one. And then finally, Jon Moxley versus Orange Cassidy. Again, I think it's time. Put the belt on Orange Cassidy. I feel like he would be a solid AEW World Champion because we saw what he did with the International Championship. Might as well. I say put the belt on him. Put the belt on Orange Cassidy.
All right, y'all. I'm back for the third and final time, and you know I had to do it. I'm the resident AEW contributor here, and we do have a pay-per-view coming up this Saturday. Full Gear. It was one of the OG Big Four pay-per-views coming up from the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey. Not going to do a full-blown Dynamite recap along with a Full Gear recap because most of the stuff that happened on Dynamite was leading into Full Gear, was promoting it. So, I'll do quick little tidbits here and there and say what happened on Dynamite and kind of give you my thoughts, but yeah, kind of no reason to go over what happened on Dynamite with this Full Gear preview, which I'm going to promise, pinky promise. I know I missed the last AEW pay-per-view. I was a little sick, wasn't feeling that great, so I skipped it. But this week, I know everyone is waiting for it and anticipating it. Under the Radar will be back, and I will do the Full Gear recap. Thus far, only 10 matches announced, or at least 9 matches on the pay-per-view proper, which is very short compared to some other AEW pay-per-views. And let's hope they keep it that way. We still got Rampage to add random ass matches at the very end. Hopefully there's all added to the pre-show. But yeah, this pay-per-view, even despite it being an OG name, not feeling super hyped about this show. Just kind of indicative on how the company as a whole is doing. Just not excited, I would say. Like, I know it's going to be a good show. I'm kind of excited to see the show because I know it's going to be good and it's going to be some good action, but there's not like that one match that like you have to see or you really have to watch because you know it's the reason to order the show, basically. And now with this day and age of AEW, having all these different pay-per-views, it's asking a lot to have people shell out the $50 per month at this point, or at least every other month if you, it's just asking a lot. And I just don't know what this pay-per-view buy rate will do. I'm not a big buy rate guy in terms of what the numbers are, but I would not be shocked if this is the lowest Full Gear buy rate of all time. But before we do that, we will go over some AEW news before we get into the Full Gear preview. We did get some announcements on AEW December and early 2025 dates. So intriguing, just little tidbits here and there that they are going to be running. January 1st, they will be doing the Fight for the Fallen show, and that will be streaming on Max. So that is going to be the first show. I believe it's a Dynamite. Once again, there's just no way of me knowing that because it's on the 1st. Yeah. Yep. January 1st is on a Wednesday. So that is going to be a Dynamite simulcast on Max. And exciting, intriguing to see what AEW and Max can do as a conglomeration. No, as a partnership, and see what happens from there. The Hammerstein Ballroom is going to be a show for AEW as well, and kind of overall the theme that people pointed out is that AEW is moving to smaller venues. So kind of, those 5,000-esque venues. I wish, me and Phillip were here together because I'd love to see him take a victory lap because, he's been saying that for months, if not years now at this point, that AEW should run smaller venues. And I agree. There's no reason for them to be in these even minor league basketball and hockey arenas that seat 10 to 15,000 and you're only putting in 2 to 3. It just, despite them figuring out ways to make it look passable, you still could kind of tell, and the cavernous, kind of echoey, doesn't feel vibrant atmosphere of these AEW TV tapings, it does come through. But one show they're not going to be doing a small venue is Revolution. They will be hosting that one from Crypto.com Arena, Staples Center. I'm probably just going to call it Staples Center forever because that's what it is, the house that Kobe built. But yeah, they're going to do Revolution at the Staples Center in LA. So with WWE doing Raw from the Intuit Dome January 6th for the first Netflix Raw. AEW also having a major show in LA. Intriguing, they're not going to the Forum, which was the site of Full Gear 2023, but they're going to the Staples Center, which is, downtown LA, kind of the more marquee, big time venue. And I do wonder why that's the case, why they just go back to the Forum. They've done multiple Dynamites there. They did maybe 2 pay-per-views. I think they did another pay-per-view outside. I don't know. But, maybe they have a big plan in place with the whole Death Rider storyline. Maybe it crescendos at Revolution. This year we had the Sting retirement match. And that was a big deal. That was a really big match, both television-wise and business-wise. They sold it out. They popped a big buy right there. And maybe Tony Khan sees Revolution as kind of their maybe third most, their third biggest show of the year, outside of All Out or All In. And then, maybe Double or Nothing or All Out, and then Revolution. So, intrigued to see what happens with AEW in 2025. Definitely they have to figure something out here, storyline-wise, and just kind of get them back on track, because 2024 was not and is not a good year for them. And you can kind of see some of the warning signs in 2023, and that has definitely bled into 2024. And hopefully for 25, they can bounce back, both creatively and business wise, to have kind of two fully healthy companies, and that would be very exciting. And at this point, it was foolish of people to think that AEW could overtake WWE, but with the monster that WWE is right now, I think it definitely has to eat into what AEW is doing, because they were the alternative when WWE was terrible in 2019 and basically up until like 2021, 22. And when AEW was its hottest, they were, WWE was not great. Not really good, to be honest. And then now that WWE has kind of hit their strides, AEW has definitely suffered from that. And even if WWE wasn't that great, I still think AEW would be maybe in a little bit better position, but probably not much. But anyways, let's not be a Debbie Downer, and let's go through this Full Gear preview. We do have a pretty big pre-show match here. We got Big Boom AJ with Big Justice taking on QT Marshall, and the Rizzler will be the special guest timekeeper. I mean, you guys know me. I'm the serious sports guy who wants everything to make sense and everything to be the most important thing, but I gotta admit, I got a blind spot for the Costco guys and the Rizzler. I love them. I get it. There's going to be a lot of people out there in the wrestling world that aren't going to know who these people are and don't care, and like, why are they on this show? I don't give a shit. I love them. I'm so excited for this. It's like, the dumb wrestling stuff that I kind of shake my fist at, and like, why are people doing this? Like, I understand I am a complete hypocrite, and you guys can dunk on me and call me an idiot or a hypocrite, whatever you want to call me about this stuff. I don't care. I love it. I'm excited. It's on the pre-show. They have like they had their couple minutes on Dynamite, and I know they're doing a weigh-in on Rampage, but this is just like, it's kind of like the worst tendencies of AEW. Now, if I Shadowland Store, if I can be serious for a sec, this does play into, I think, the worst tendencies of AEW, because the Costco guys and the Rizzler are just a complete, internet kind of inside joke. And as big as the internet can be and how big of a bubble I think they are. And they posted the promo that AJ cut on Dynamite. I think I like 2, maybe 3 million views at this point, if not more. And that's a lot of eyeballs. But out of those 3 million people, how many of them are going to actually go and watch this? I'm intrigued to see what the pre-show numbers are. Like, it's going to be on YouTube. It's going to be probably on Twitter and whatever other Instagram Live. So they can pull whatever numbers they have and put them all together and say that, AJ and Big Justice and the Rizzler drew like 2 million concurrent viewers, which would be just laughable. That like the 2 biggest draws in AEW history would be CM Punk, number 1, the Costco guys and the Rizzler, number 2. I mean, anyways, prediction wise, I think AJ wins. Rizzler, I love everyone. I hope no one gets hurt, and it's just one big happy moment for Big Boom AJ with Big Justice and the Rizzler as a special guest timekeeper. Then moving on to the pay-per-view proper. I would assume they're going to add some sort of pre-shows, but we don't care about those at the pre-show matches. It's all about Big Boom AJ. Bring the boom. First off, we got MJF taking on Roderick Strong. No Adam Cole to speak of. We did get 2 promos on Dynamite, and the main one was Kyle O'Reilly coming out to Adam Cole and just like kind of telling Adam Cole that like, you're not, you can't be the bad guy. You can't bring whatever MJF brings. So like, why try? Which is, I don't know how to take that. Like, I know they had the thing of Kyle O'Reilly trying to get lured to the dark side and join the Undisputed Kingdom, and though Adam Cole ankle injury kind of derailed all of that. But yeah, like, I don't know why Adam Cole isn't a part of this match. I would think he gets involved some which way. Maybe he turns like, the only thing that kind of made sense of like why they would do that is Kyle O'Reilly telling Adam Cole, basically deconstructing it, is MJF is a way bigger, badder heel than you will ever be. So now Adam Cole took that as a challenge, said, hold my beer. I don't think he drinks, but anyways, you get the analogy. And he's going to be a heel, and he's going to be even worse and more dastardly than MJF is, which that's going to be a challenge. I don't like the stuff MJF has been doing these past few weeks and months since the Daniel Garcia feud. With him doing the Happy Gilmore movie, a lot of it's pre-taped, and they try to act like it's live, but it just is so phony and contrived that I don't like it. So hopefully it's over sooner rather than later, and MJF can kind of come back into the arena and kind of do some more live action stuff, and maybe rise some of that stock that I've been selling on him. Prediction-wise, I think MJF gets the win here. Maybe Adam Cole turns heel, but not like on MJF, but he turns on Roderick Strong. But MJF and Adam Cole should not be aligned at whatsoever. Yeah, just stay away. Both those guys should just be like magnets or whatever it is. They should just be repellent of each other. They should never come in contact for like the next 2 to 3 years, if not longer. Then we get Jay White taking on Hangman Adam Page in a singles match. Story going into this one is last pay-per-view Jay White beat Adam Page, and they played up the fact that Jay White is Page's number. He's beaten him however many times. So, they would seem that maybe this is the way, have Adam Page get his win back. But, they seem to be in the build-up Jay White business, which I am a fan of. I am not opposed to it, and I get it. We're in that mode where it's like, you got to build up Jay White, or you got to kind of beat Hangman Page, and you go back, he beat Swerve and blah, 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 blah. But I think Jay White gets another win here with the kind of crazed, lunatic character that Page has. I feel like he can eat these types of losses and just kind of create a bigger, drastic downward spiral, and he can kind of, get himself out of it. I don't know, what the Elite are doing, and maybe, Adam Page kind of goes down a dark route, and Kenny Omega comes back, the Young Bucks come back, and maybe the match at Revolution is like, Kenny Omega, a giant. They're not going to do War Games because that's like the thing they do in June, but maybe a Double or Nothing. Anarchy in the arena is the Death Riders taking on the Elite all together for the first time ever, or first time in forever. And maybe Jay White beating Hangman Page, and maybe Jay White is one of the people to take on Jon Moxley in this Death Rider storyline. But we shall see. Then we have the Fatal 4-Way Tag Team Championship match with Private Party defending their titles against the Outrunners, the House of Black, and the Acclaim. Should be some good action, a lot of moving pieces here. I think Private Party gets the win. Who they pin? Probably the Outrunners. Outrunners have been getting a lot of shine on Collision. People like them, but they're just a complete kind of goof act. And it's indicative of kind of AEW right now. It's like the Outrunners, MXM Collection, and like some other dumb stuff on AEW. The Costco guys, like they're like the things people know and care about the most right now in terms of like reactions when people should be caring about the title match between Moxley and Orange Cassidy, and the women's title match between Monet and Chris Statlander, and the tag team match, even though it's a bunch of tag teams just kind of put together for no reason, but people want to cheer the Outrunners because they're funny and they do 80 shtick. Speaking of the women's match, we get the only women's match, at least women's title match on the show. We will be getting a Mariah May, Marina Shirakawa title celebration finally. I think it's going to be kind of pretty straightforward. Maybe we get like an angle of Mina turning on Mariah, or Mariah turning on Mina, because I think Mariah May is going to stay heel and should stay heel for the foreseeable future. And we finally get the Mina Shirakawa and Mariah May feud. With Toni Storm kind of out there on excursion. She's teased retirement. She says she's lost all over the place, AEW, Japan, Mexico, and she's retiring. I don't believe that for a second. It was a completely kind of in kayfabe, in character interview. Now maybe Toni Storm makes her return. Maybe she goes away and she has like a complete character revampment. And whether that's, she goes from being, a starlet from the 40s to being an actress in the 60s or the 70s, or she goes back to whatever Toni Storm she wants to be. Going back to the actual matches. Mercedes Moné defends her TBS title against Chris Statlander. I mean, why is Chris Statlander face again? I don't know. Moné is like bullying around Camille, and Camille is kind of sympathetic, but yet she, hasn't really. She's a taller woman, just kind of letting Moné just bully her around. I don't think they're building to a Camille babyface turn already, because they've only been together for like a couple months now, but that's kind of what it seems like. I think Moné just gets the win. Maybe they do some angle where Camille, she's been selling this shoulder injury, that maybe she finally busts out of the sling, attacks Chris Statlander, and Moné gets the win that way. I don't know. Moné is just completely cold as a character, and going up against a newly turned Chris Statlander as a babyface does not do any wonders for this match. People like Statlander, people kind of like Moné. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with this match. Then we got Swerve Strickland taking on Bobby Lashley. This should be an interesting match from like a booking standpoint. Swerve, one of your top guys. Bobby Lashley just debuted in ring on Dynamite in a 2-on-1 squash match. I think you have Bobby Lashley beat Swerve here just to kind of get a little bit more out of the feud, and then Swerve, gets his win back later. Definitely should be like, by interference or by whatever. Lashley shouldn't be beating Swerve Strickland clean by any means. But I would think, if I'm making a prediction, Bobby Lashley gets the win here. Then we get the TNT title match with Jack Perry defending against Daniel Garcia. Perry and Garcia had a little spat on Collision that then bled into a video on Dynamite. I think this is kind of the one you get your one title change on Dynamite on AEW pay-per-views, and I think this is one of them. I think Daniel Garcia gets the win here, becomes TNT champion. Jack Perry, he turned heel off the CM Punk stuff, and he's kind of doing his own thing and kind of in his own little universe. And for whatever reason, I don't think his character, his heel work has like really clicked. He's undersized. He has like the long hair and the big beard. It almost seems like he's cosplaying angry bad guy. I just don't take him seriously. Like, I'm sorry. I just don't think he's doing a good job as a heel. Being attached with the Elite, where the Young Bucks are kind of doing their shtick and Okada says bitch every 10 words, probably doesn't help him trying to be a serious act. And, he's like the brooding, dark, emo kid with the parents. Match should be fine. I think as I said, Daniel Garcia should get the win here. Maybe some chicanery, but with the Elite on working from home and Okada not being in AEW right now, but he'll be back for the Continental Classic in a couple weeks. So, yeah. Then the match that I think definitely these next two matches people are going to suspect will be the best match on the night. Will Ospreay taking on Kyle Fletcher. We did get a 8-man tag match where Ospreay accidentally nailed Mark Davis, right? His name is Mark Davis, right? Let's see. I probably should have looked this up beforehand. Okay, yes. I mean, just because as a Raider and wrestling fan, Mark Davis is the owner of the Las Vegas Raiders. So when I say Mark Davis, even if it is right, it just doesn't sound right. Not talking about the P.F. Chang's loving, bowl cut wearing, Chevy Astro driving Las Vegas Raiders owner. But I digress. So yeah, Ospreay hit Davis with the hidden blade, and then Takeshita pinned him for the win. And this is another one of those kind of like Swerve and Lashley, kind of a fork in the road. Where do you go? Definitely, Ospreay, one of their big stars. Kyle Fletcher, someone they have been building up. And I think at this point in Ospreay's career, in his run in AEW, he's kind of in a lull point where he's not like on the cusp of doing something. He's, we're not around the corner from All In. We're not around the corner from Double or Nothing, or like, a major pay-per-view that you think Ospreay could be like that top guy. I think you get the win to Fletcher here. You give him a win, probably with some sort of underhanded tactics with Don Callis. Fletcher gets the win. He has a bragging point over Ospreay. Ospreay has to fight back and get his win back from Kyle Fletcher. Fletcher can get that win, and he can go back on it and kind of be a talking point in his career and him trying to get built up. So yeah, once again, should be a really fun match, but prediction-wise, I think Fletcher gets the win here. Then staying in the Don Callis family, we got Konosuke Takeshita defending his international title against Ricochet. This match should also be very good. I kind of forgot this one was on the card, to be honest, but I think Takeshita continues the title reign. Interesting that, in the Don Callis family, Kyle Fletcher is kind of like the new toy. So Takeshita's kind of taking a back seat. Despite, if you ask me to pick one, I'm picking Takeshita. Like, I don't care that his English might not be great, but just his in-ring work, especially in AEW, like, that can carry you so much farther than in WWE. So I would take Takeshita over Fletcher if I had to pick one. But at the moment right now, they are heavily building up Fletcher, and maybe that's kind of why he feels like he's the new toy. Maybe in a couple weeks, they feel a little more equal. But we have to wait and see on that front. Ricochet, on the other hand, he's just kind of been, been there. He's been in some backstage segments with the Hurt Syndicate. Is he going to join? Won't he join? He's got the match with Zack Sabre Jr. January 5th. He did seem a little bit heelish in the match, but in the build up and his angle that he did. Maybe that was just him doing that because he's in Japan, or maybe that's just something to a little glimpse into the future of what his character is going to look like in AEW that would then bleed into his match in January. So I would not be shocked if Ricochet gets this win here, but because I believe Fletcher gets the win, I think it also should make sense for Takeshita to get the win, so Don Callis' family can, be relatively strong coming out of Full Gear. Then main event time, and another reason why I'm not super high on this card in general is just I think this is a relatively weak main event. Jon Moxley, Orange Cassidy, AEW World Title, and main event of Dynamite was Orange Cassidy taking on Wheeler Yuta, and like storyline wise it made sense because of Yuta's past with Orange Cassidy, but they went a really long time. Orange Cassidy was selling so much for Wheeler Yuta, who was like an underneath guy, like the lowest guy on the Death Riders, and Cassidy is already a weak challenger to begin with, and yet you're having him sell so much against Wheeler. I didn't understand that, and I just don't think anyone believes that Orange Cassidy is going to beat Moxley. It's kind of that old, Backlash main event or whatever the, WrestleMania show afterwards is. No one believes that the new champion is going to lose the title on their first defense, and I think that's the case here. Should be a fun match. They might tell a story, maybe get people to believe that Orange Cassidy is going to get the win, and I would not put it past them to have Orange Cassidy get the win here, but there's nearly zero chance I think Jon Moxley gets this win. Looking far ahead, I don't know who is kind of the ultimate person, protagonist against the Death Riders. I would say Darby Allin, but Darby Allin lost to Claudio pretty clean on Dynamite this past week. Don't really understand that as well. And this whole Death Rider scene, I really hope we get like a pivotal moment, cliffhanger, something at Full Gear, because thus far Moxley's kind of like talking in riddles and, kind of saying things that like me personally I agree with, of him kind of talking about the AEW locker room, not really caring, and, they need to, get their shit together basically, or whatever his exact verbiage is. He kind of says the same thing every week, just in a different way. I think we need to like have something to have people care about this storyline. And I think thus far, people like Moxley, people like pretty much everyone in the faction, I would say. Marina Shafir, she's kind of like, she just hasn't been around as long as the other people in that faction for, I think, people to care positively about her. So I think she's like the best heel out of the group. And Moxley, even going back to the BCC, they were heels in theory, but like people cheered them all the time and they were facing against heels, and yeah, it was just kind of a mess on that front. And so I'm hoping it's not like BCC 2.0 on that front, but we've had this angled this faction for like a month or two now at this point, and I still kind of feel the same I felt a couple months ago, where it's like, okay, I'm like kind of intrigued, but I'm waiting for that next shoe to drop, and it just hasn't dropped yet. And I'm hoping, because Full Gear is kind of a tentpole event for AEW, that maybe they do something big here. What is that? I don't know. I'm not getting paid to do that. That's what Tony Khan and his crew is supposed to do. Is it going to happen? Maybe. Who knows? But I think the safest bet on this show is Jon Moxley beating Orange Cassidy and retaining that championship. Still haven't even seen the title. Maybe that's what the big kind of stamp at the end of the show is Moxley takes that title out, or I guess we have to give the title in the match, and then like after the fact, they do, whatever. They do like the NWO angle and they like smash it, or they degrade it and they have their own belt. I don't know. But anyways, that is it for the Full Gear preview. Throwing it back to Phillip. Remember, tune into my Full Gear recap Saturday nights, Sunday mornings, whatever. After AEW Full Gear goes off the air, I will be back to record my thoughts, and hopefully it was a really good show and something does big happen at the end of that main event.
All right, guys, that is going to do it for the Bullet Cast this week. I know, kind of a different episode, wonky episode, but nonetheless, we got it done. Thank you guys so much. Back next week. We'll talk the fallout of Full Gear. We'll talk SmackDown. Obviously, Monday Night Raw. We'll preview Survivor Series War Games, and obviously, we'll preview Oasis Pro's 2-year anniversary that's happening next week. Thank you guys so much. As always, be safe and stay dangerous. Yes, sir.
What's going on? It's Teasy. This elite podcast in here. Ain't nobody better. Look. Yeah. Listen to us every time we live in the side. When you turn it on, it's just defining the mind. If you feel it, our opinions is great. When everything we moving now with the state, turn us on if the feeling is right. Every opinion now comes from the heart. No time we move with a part. We on the radio, it's wrestling. Time's aggression. Here is the feeling in the pool. Get the lesson. And if you wanna prove it to you now, here's the feeling in the time and everything that we did. Listen to the senators connecting it, moving on everything that's pronouncing it. Everything we did in the time now with the testament. Here is the feeling when we live on the stage, and everything we do turning the page. Nobody does it like us. The feeling when we move, we are excited.